Hey y'all, how y'all doing? Y'all, just in case you didn't know, and y'all know, he been on my mind, but I ain't saying nothing about it. They have caught the last New Orleans inmate, Derrick Groves. They got him. You shouldn't have never came to Atlanta. Why y'all keep coming up in Atlanta? Boy, they don't call Derrick Grove, y'all. He called in Atlanta. Lord, him missing. He was doing good when he was out that way, but he came to Atlanta. They got him. But y'all, so I'm gonna give y'all the new coverage of them catching him. So y'all like, share, and subscribe the video. They did catch Derrick Groves, the last New Orleans inmate.
We're all, as reporters, trying to figure out what those details are, trying to get that information so that we can bring it to you and bring you the very latest as we continue this breaking
Thank you,
news
baby.
cut-in for everyone out there. You can see lots of heavily armored vehicles. Just take a look at this on your screen right now. This is another heavily armored vehicle that's positioned in and around this house and this neighborhood in southwest Atlanta. So huge law enforcement presence. I know if I'm one of the neighbors in that area, I'm wondering what in the world is going on there, especially since this has ties to New Orleans, not actually Atlanta. So,
Right.
the residents are probably very shocked about what they're seeing this afternoon. You can see, though, if you look at
Thank
the
you,
different
baby.
vests of these law enforcement officers, look, you can see Atlanta Police right there. There's a police cruiser for them. So that's an indication that Atlanta Police for Atlanta proper are involved in this operation. You can see the SWAT vehicles are being moved. What we do know, from our law enforcement sources is that, again, this is happening and unfolding before your eyes right now in this southwest Atlanta neighborhood. What we do have some new information coming in. Mike McDaniel is joining me here in the studio. We're going to continue to look at this live picture. But, Mike, just tell us what we have new information-wise in terms of what's going on there in Atlanta.
Yeah, and so in regards to some of those sources, they did tell us that he was walked out in handcuffs. So
Okay.
that does tell us apparently he is in good condition, considering everything
Yes.
that's going on. You had all the gassing going on. You had him surrounded, barricaded, whatever the case may have been. So he seems to be fine,
That's
as
good.
opposed to being walked out in handcuffs. We have gotten a statement from the district attorney, Jason Williams, here in
Okay.
the Orleans Parish. I'm going to read that for you here. Today we have confirmed the escape inmate Derrick Groves has been captured in Atlanta, Georgia, following a standoff at a residence in southwest Atlanta. After nearly 5 months on the run after his escape from Orleans Parish Sheriff's Office custody on May 16th, 2025.
Okay.
Now, he goes on to say Groves' escape represented a serious breach of public safety. You've been talking about that. Of
Yes.
course, the historic failure, as
Yes.
we've seen when it comes to custodial security there at the jail. His capture brings a long way to come to victims, their families, the witnesses who testified, the assistant district attorneys who prosecuted him, and the people of New Orleans who were rightly concerned that a convicted violent offender had escaped so easily and evaded
Yes.
justice for so long. And that brings another section to the fold here is the people who were the victims.
Absolutely.
The people who testified against him.
Yes.
They have for months now been looking over their shoulder effectively.
Yes.
We know that they've been working with the sheriff's office as well as the district attorney's office, state police, to try and get some type of protection in place. But you can only protect people out in the public for so long.
Yes.
When you have someone like this, Derrick Groves, on the loose. So now this brings that finality to them that maybe they can't have some closure with this arrest that we now know happened in southwest Atlanta at that home.
Absolutely. Derrick Groves is one of the inmates who was actually convicted. He was awaiting sentencing.
And the only one.
The only one, yes, who was post-conviction, who was in the jail, again, awaiting sentencing. At that point, he would have been transferred to a state prison to serve out the rest of his sentence.
They got him.
Now you would think that some additional charges would be added to what Derrick Groves has already been convicted of. We have reporters both in Atlanta and here in New Orleans standing by. Alyssa Curtis has been following this story as it's unfolded over the last 5 months. She's joining us now outside of the Sheriff's Office headquarters and Orleans Justice Center with the latest. So, Alyssa, what have you managed to find out so far?
Gotcha.
Honestly, that it's a very fast moving situation right now. Katie, I'm here at the jail like you mentioned, and outside it seems kind of like business as usual, but I would imagine inside the sheriff's office and beyond these walls, I'm sure they are scrambling. I'm sure they were happy to have some finality to to this situation that's been happening for 5 months. 5 months is kind of crazy. It feels like it was yesterday, but also a year ago. We've been dealing with this in New Orleans for so long. And Derrick Groves, of course, the last inmate to be found. Now we know he was in Atlanta. Several of those escaped inmates, though, were found kind of quickly after we heard the news. We know that there was a huge scene in the French Quarter a few hours after they escaped, and some of those found there, some inmates found in other states. But Derrick Groves has been the one inmate they seemingly, had some issues and trouble locating specifically, but now we know that has come to an end. That day back in May 16th, was extremely hectic. Now, we know that the escape began in the early morning, hours before several people and most people across the city and the state knew what was happening. We know now that the escape happened or started around 12:30 in the morning that day, when they were, we've seen the video of them kind of pulling on that doors for several minutes. It seems like we know once they were able to breach that door, they were able to pull a toilet off of the wall. And after, we've all seen those pictures of the hole in the wall with the drawings that say "too easy" on the wall. We now know that, once they were able to get out of the jail, they escaped through a loading dock. They scaled a wall and then ran across the interstate. This again happened all in the early morning hours of May 16th, but we didn't really know what was happening until much later, and that has been a huge point of contention in this situation, the delay of notification. Now, we saw in the days after the escape, Sheriff Hudson and several law enforcement agencies go to city council to present information on this, and the big question was, where was that delay in information, and why wasn't the public, the news, city leaders, state leaders told about this huge breach in the jail? So that still has been a point of discussion in the past 5 months, and I'm sure will continue to be.
Why the are utility bills so high? Where are the politicians to rein in the corporations? Georgia family
say that there has been several safety and issues with things like locks in the jail, and she's been mentioning that for a long time. But again, that has been a point of discussion throughout all of this, and a question to the city council: are you going to help fund this? Are you going to help get things done that we need in the jail to prevent things like this from happening again? So still a lot of questions to be answered in that. But again, this has been such a long situation, 5 months now, coming to an end. Now, again, those 9 inmates who escaped but had been refound, whether it was in New Orleans or across state lines, they have all now been sitting in a state facility. We've seen pictures, and we know from state officials that after they were recaptured, they were taken to a state facility with what they officials say is better security, so they can essentially keep a better eye on them. So these cases are still wrapping up, but of course we'll continue to follow them. Katie, back to you.
Yeah, lots of great context and additional information there from Melissa. I know you're going to continue to work your sources as well as this whole situation unfolds. I'm here with Mike McDaniel. If you're just joining us, escapee Derrick Groves has been recaptured in Southwest Atlanta. Now take a look at this, Mike. This is what we believe to be, Derrick Groves.
That cruiser in Atlanta.
Not sure?
Not 100% sure, but we do believe that could possibly be him being taken away from the scene there. We're going to slow down the video just to kind of give you a look. And we've seen the mugshot that we've been using of Derrick Groves, and it could be possibly.
Yes.
We're still waiting on law enforcement officials to confirm that, of course, is in fact him. Of course, 5 months ago when this all happened, you even had the district attorney, Jason Williams, come out and say that he was personally afraid of Derrick Groves being on the loose, because he tried those murder cases along with a couple of other lawyers as well, and they left the state.
Bye, Derrick. Bye.
Retaliation in some way.
Yes.
And hopefully,
that's Derrick.
Of course, is Derrick Groves, which we do believe it is. That this can kind of give them some type
Look
of
at him.
Yeah, absolutely, including all of the witnesses
Hollering out the window.
who cooperated with law enforcement in the cases.
Bye.
It's not Derrick Groves' first conviction either. So
Up
there
in
have been
Atlanta.
other convictions that he has been in prison for in the past, and so a lot of people had been on edge when
Take
this
your
happened
butt back
5 months
down
ago,
there.
and for the last 5 months as this has unfolded. I'll be interested to see if we can hear what that person is saying, if that is Derrick Groves, who was in the back of that police cruiser. Apparently, our people at the scene, some reporters saw him being taken out in handcuffs. So as far as we know, he was not injured as he was taken into custody.
And it didn't appear to be right there.
No. And had said to me that they really had to search for him, that he may have been hiding in a crawl space underneath a home. Whether or not that was the initial home that they had responded to, that they used gas in, it's unclear. Those details hopefully will be coming out in the next little bit.
And look, there's a 5-month gap of what was happening, right? Who was helping him?
Yes.
We know that he didn't get to Atlanta just on his own. He was in a home. Whose home was it? Somebody knew where he was at some point, and that's going to be a big question law enforcement is going to be asking. How many people along the way actually helped him escape and keep him under wraps? Because Alyssa brought up a good point there, him being the outlier. You never really heard much from him.
No.
Or anything on social media. There were no pop-ups or sightings other than tips that may have come into Crime Stoppers or something, and we...
They caught him, y'all. They got him.
Street in Atlanta, Georgia.
Up in Atlanta. I told him not to come up here.
We had sent what we call a collateral lead request from the U.S. Marshals New Orleans Task Force to the U.S. Marshals Southeast Regional Fugitive Task Force. They went out this morning with the support of the Atlanta.
Where you bring that junk up here?
And after a probably 2 to 3 hour, I don't want to call it a standoff, it wasn't quite that, but after multi hours of trying to search the home, Groves was finally located hiding in a crawl space.
So it was at that initial house that law enforcement responded to?
Correct. It was at the house they responded to late. I guess it would be late this morning on Honeysuckle. And ultimately, he was located in that residence, but it took well over 2 hours, probably closer to 3 hours, to have him finally apprehended in the house.
Was anyone else in the home?
Not that I'm aware of. No.
Have you been able to piece together what the connection is between Derrick Groves and this particular house?
That's going to take some time, and that's going to be the subject of follow-up investigative work.
Any idea if additional people may face charges related to this situation?
It's possible. If it's determined that people helped him while he was on the run, they could definitely face charges.
Now, you all have gotten tips over the weeks of where he might be. I mean, how far and wide have you all been searching for him?
I mean, we've had tips in the United States, the East Coast, West Coast, state of Kansas. There's been multiple tips that have come in. We've had to follow up on all of them. And while doing our own investigation along the way with support from our law enforcement partners, and this one finally panned out.
Thank
It
you.
has been a huge effort between you all and those other law enforcement partners. I mean, can you even put into words for us what that
I don't even know why he came to Atlanta. That's the worst. Why they running up here?
The U.S. Marshals cannot take
These
social
folks strict
threats
up here.
who were heavily involved in it, but without all the partner agencies we've worked with,
There you go.
would not
Here
have been
come the
resolved.
devil.
It took a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of manpower conducting follow-up because Derrick Groves and many of his people.
Can you kind of paint us a picture, if you will, kind of walk us through what happened during the arrest of Derrick Groves and you taking him out of the house?
Wasn't there.
Firma, they locked him up for real, man. Anything happen in the ATL, it's real.
Deployed gas.
They locked him up.
Multiple times into the residence. There was a basement in the house, and ultimately, I think that was searched, and he was located in a crawl space. At least that's my
He in a
understanding.
crawl space?
Uninjured, to the best of your knowledge?
To the best of my, maybe some scuff marks, but pretty much uninjured.
And you said that you got the Crime Stoppers tip when?
We've received multiple Crime Stoppers tips on Derrick Groves, so I don't know the exact date that the tip came in.
Do you know if any of those tips have led you to Atlanta before, or is this the first one that points?
I knew he was coming up here.
No, we've had tips in Georgia as well as all over the United States, so we've had multiple tips in Georgia and other places.
You know, so what happens next with Groves? He's in custody, we've seen in Atlanta. What's the next step here?
So if he waives extradition or doesn't fight extradition, he would be extradited back to Louisiana. If I were guessing, I would think Louisiana State Police would then fight extradition. He would be extradited back to Louisiana. If I were guessing, I would think Louisiana State Police would more than likely have some involvement in that extradition process, like they've done with the other escapee. If he fights extradition, eventually law enforcement would have to secure a governor's warrant to have him extradited back to Louisiana.
All right, well, I assume we're going to hear more from law enforcement agencies as we continue throughout the afternoon. We can't thank you enough, Brian Fair, for joining us.
That's what they
and giving us
did.
the very latest on this breaking situation. Thankful no one was hurt.
Yep, yes, absolutely. It was.
I don't know why he ran up here. I still don't understand that part.
Pleased that no one was hurt.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much.
That's
We
really one
appreciate
of the
it.
good things when you talk about what the situation that could have unfolded in a situation like this. You have a multi-hour type of, he didn't want to say standoff, but situation in a home.
Oh, I'm glad they got him
Search
out the
home,
street.
gassing the home. You have plenty of guns on the periphery and the edges and the perimeter
Yes.
of this home. We don't know if Derrick was armed at the time.
They got Derrick Groves, y'all. I've been wondering where he was.
Yes.
Could have been much worse.
Incredible. It was really an incredible scene. When you see the huge number of law enforcement that were there, you know, we saw at least 2 massive armored vehicles that were being taken away from that scene when we first joined you all live on the air about 40 minutes ago. They were just starting to leave after taking him back into custody. Can we show that video again? Can we re-rack that video of him in the car? At least that's who we think it is.
Oh,
in
yeah.
the car. And now
I
we're
want to
hearing
look
from
in that
Brian
car.
He was alone in the house. Assume that this is Derrick Groves in the back of this police cruiser. We heard from our reporters at the scene that he was taken out in handcuffs, that he walked away from the scene, and as Brian Fair just mentioned, no one was hurt in taking him back into custody. So a huge cooperative effort, both on the part of the U.S. Marshals and these multiple law enforcement agencies, both here in New Orleans and in
Derrick. Bye, Derrick. Bye, boy.
shouting outside of the car.
I wonder what he's saying.
We'll get, when you talk about the collaboration
Let me look at him.
here, Katie, another really big
Let me look. Oh, yeah, that Derrick. Bye, Derrick.
part of that you heard Brian talk about is the community.
Bye, boy.
For tips through Crime
Go on back down there where you came from. Get on back out. Get out of here.
This is one of the ones that
Bringing that stuff up in Atlanta. Get out of here.
To this home in Southwest Atlanta to finally get Derrick Groves back in.
Bringing that mess to
Yes,
Atlanta.
and as he mentioned, you know, and you mentioned, Mike, there are many people who have been affected by the crimes that Derrick Groves has been convicted of committing. You know,
He came up here in Atlanta to go to the Blue Flame.
Now, all the Louisiana State Penitentiary, it's reasonable brought back here to
And they took his age right back where he came from. You so stupid. He came to the Blue Flame.
Additional charges, one would assume.
Oh, Lord.
You know,
They just don't know why we good people up here in Atlanta, because we don't fool these folks. We don't fool with the police.
Here in New Orleans, there were people who assisted in his escape.
I be telling people,
keeping him on the run.
don't try to escape and come to Atlanta, baby, because they gonna get you know what.
I know that they have not shown much mercy to people who have
Went to the Blue
been
Flame.
involved in doing just that with the other escapees.
Oh,
So
Lord.
as this investigation continues, you would think that those are all of the threats that they're going to continue to pull, and that there is a possibility as we
Say
heard
what
from
you
Brian
say,
Fair, that there
Nick.
could
You
be
said
some
that
more,
man wrecked
additional
straight
arrests as this investigation
in the
continues.
early 20s. I told Derrick not to come to Atlanta. I told him that. And he brought his ass up here anyway. Let me put it back on him trying to fuss, y'all. I got to put it back on him trying to fuss. Look at him, y'all, in the car back seat of the car. I ain't feeling sorry for him. I'm sorry, y'all. We don't mess with these police in Atlanta. If we have a cookout, we don't want the police to come. Come on, where he go? In the back seat of the car.
A multi-hour type of, he didn't want to say
Hold on, I didn't see him in the back seat of the car. Back there fussing out the window.
Fair that he was alone in the house, so
There
it's
you go.
reasonable to assume that this is
He
Derrick
went to
Groves
the
in
Blue
back of his
Flame.
police cruiser. We heard from our reporters at the scene that he was taken out in handcuffs, that he walked away from the
Help
scene.
me,
And as
Jesus.
Brian Fair just mentioned, no one was hurt in taking him back into custody. So a
Help me,
huge cooperative
Jesus.
effort, both on the part of the U.S. Marshals and these multiple
Look
law
at him, y'all.
enforcement agencies, both
Look at him.
in New Orleans.
Don't be getting mad at us. You gone now. You gone back up there where you came from. Go, boy.
There'll be some audio somewhere.
Running up here
Yes, and of
for.
course, when you talk about the collaborative efforts here, Katie,
In the
there's
back of Atlanta police car.
part of that you heard Brian talk about
Bye,
is
Derrick.
the community. Had it not
Bye.
been through Crime Stoppers, would we be here?
Bye.
Yeah,
He
absolutely.
said thanks to those tips,
Get out of
those
here.
are the ones that panned out that helped lead officers and authorities
Got the nerve to
Southwest
fuss.
Atlanta to finally get Derrick Groves back in custody.
Yes, and as he mentioned,
Let me
as
see.
you
Let me
mentioned,
skip this.
right,
See what else they
there
got,
are
y'all.
many people
Ooh, that boy done made history.
looking through the blinds and just watching her. So at this
The
point,
people. Wait a minute. Let me see the people looking through the blinds. See, we don't fool with the police in Atlanta. Oh, they peeping through they blind. I don't blame them.
if there were people who actually did aid in his escape and aid in his ability to be on the lam for 5 months.
And we know that was the case for so many of the other inmates. I
Yes.
mean, we have seen so many people be arrested.
Listen to this,
Yes.
BP. Listen to
They
this.
were not inmates. They were just friends of, family of.
Girlfriends
so
of.
I
Yes.
would greatly assume that that's going to be the case
Ooh,
with Derrick
Lord.
Groves as well.
You would think so. I mean, to stay hidden for
that
5
long.
months, to get across
5
the
months.
lines,
Stay
you
hidden.
would think that he would have had to have had help.
He
But
didn't like
I
our
don't
our
know the answer to
bugs
that
and
yet,
stuff.
and
We
I know
got
that that's a
them
very
big
active and
rats.
ongoing investigation, just from hearing from my law enforcement sources. So still much more to come on that front in the days and weeks to come. But right now, we really are just focused on the fact that Derrick Groves was just taken into custody in Southwest Atlanta around 1 o'clock this afternoon. Law enforcement officers, Atlanta police, the U.S. Marshal Service.
I don't know why
there
he
in
came up
Atlanta
here.
Found him hiding in a crawl space in a house on Honeysuckle Street.
And we do have a reporter from Atlanta joining us now live to kind of talk about the scene. Hey there, how are you?
Look, y'all.
Hi guys, yeah, I want to take you right to the house because we are standing directly in front of the house that you can see SWAT broke the door down to. They broke the garage door down to, and this is where we are told Derrick Groves was hiding. That convicted murderer, it appears, seems to have been existing in the garage space as well. You probably can't see it from around the tree, but we were pushed a little bit further back when they put up the crime scene tape. However, you can see a bed frame inside that garage, so it was clear somebody was living in that space as well. I spoke with some neighbors earlier off camera when we were seeing Derrick Groves getting taken away in the car, and they were telling us that they noticed people standing in front of the window, looking out the window. She said there was just some suspicious activity. I spoke with a little older woman across the street, and she told me that she had noticed every time she went out to go to her mail, somebody was staring at her from across the way, looking through the blinds and just watching her. So
It was Derrick.
there was some suspicious activity going on for at least a month. Again, we know Derrick Groves was on the run now for 6
Oh,
months,
Lord.
but a very scary situation for these neighbors here as well. And like
They go to the
said,
house,
he was
y'all.
taken into custody at about 1 o'clock this afternoon. About 2:30
1
is when we saw
o'clock.
the Atlanta police vehicle drive away. SWAT
That
wrapped
looked
up.
like
There is
somebody
still a
grandma.
bit of a presence here, but it's certainly not like it was earlier. We saw the SWAT truck going out that way. We saw Atlanta police vehicles going in a different direction as well. So at this point, they left the scene at about 2:30. We saw Derrick inside of that cop car, and then inside that cop car, he was actually yelling things from the back of the
It
vehicle.
is somebody
We
grandma
weren't sure
house.
exactly what he was trying to
Grandma
say.
don't know he up there in her attic. Yeah.
Yeah, Marissa, when I said that, that was going to be my question. If you
Oh,
could make out any of the words that he was hearing.
if he was that paranoid, why didn't he leave at another place?
No, we really couldn't hear. We were trying to film it. I'm going to go back and watch
My
three
dear.
different
Yeah.
so we are going to go back and try and isolate the audio and hear exactly.
I bet our Atlanta boy said, boy, you better get out our hood. You messing up our trap. Get your butt out of here. Get out of here, Derrick. Messing up our boys up here. We don't mess with the police. You calling the police to come in their
Want to know
space.
what he had to say as he was on his way out. We did hear from the U.S. Marshal Service here in New Orleans that he was not injured. No one was injured in this operation,
Look, y'all.
which I think is something to be thankful for.
I bet them trap boys glad that helicopter stopped spinning around over there.
To your point, nobody else was injured. Nobody was injured in that situation. They tell me it was really quiet. They actually didn't realize what was happening.
Lord.
Said at
Oh Lord, I need to go to Washington Park and see what they're talking
And
about.
at 10:30, she tried to leave her home, the neighbor directly across the street from where this went down. And she said at about 9 o'clock, the officers were here. She didn't realize what was going on. And at 10:30, she tried to leave her home, the neighbor directly across the street from where this went down. And she says the officers immediately told her, get back in your home, get back inside, like get into safety. And again, she did not realize that there was a fugitive living across the street from her until all of this came out.
Yeah, I was just gonna say
Come
that, so
on,
it has
Granny,
to
you
be
supposed to
such a
know what's going on in the hood.
feeling to know that after this happened, that somebody was living next door who's an escapee from New Orleans, and he has been convicted of murder.
Yeah, and she said she noticed him, as we know, he was on the run for about 5 months, but she says she noticed him really for the last month. Again, couldn't identify him, didn't know who it was, but said she did also notice cars going into the back of the house, never
What?
in the driveway. Another neighbor told me the same thing. He also never noticed any cars in the driveway, which is abnormal, especially when you notice people inside the home. So if you're seeing somebody, like she said, looking at you through the blinds of your windows, and then you're noticing that there are never any cars in the driveway, she just said she knew something was wrong. She didn't know what
I
it
would have
was.
been called a popo.
We were talking about it. We look behind you and you showed us the house. I mean, the lawn seems to be well kept. There's landscaping seems to be kept up as well. Did neighbors talk about who was living there or whether they knew their neighbors?
So the woman, one of the women that I spoke with, one of the neighbors that lived across the street, she said that the house was sold a few years ago. She does not believe the owners that have owned it for the past few years were living in the house. She believes it was a rental. She does not know who the renters are. She said that she had been in the home a few years ago, back when she knew the owners were staying here. But as of recent, she said it has been renters to her knowledge, and she doesn't know them. And I know the shot's going to be a little bit shaky, but if I can, I'm going to have my photographer Nicholas pick up the camera. If you guys will just bear with us, and I want to bring you over here because you really can see through the garage, and it's a better angle. So if Nicholas, I know I'm asking a lot.
Hey,
Garage,
Derrick.
you can see what I'm talking about. The bed frame is there on the left-hand side.
I wonder, do he
You can
have a
see the door
sofa
through
down
the
there?
back of that garage. It looks like somebody was living in this space. And one of the neighbors also told me he heard it this morning when SWAT knocked down the door. You could hear it down the street. Knocked down that
Ooh, I
garage
know
door,
that boy
as
was
well as the front
scared.
door of the home that you saw earlier.
Wow, that's really interesting. It's also interesting to me that he's been living there for a month, that the neighbors have noticed him there for a month. And I'm curious to
Man.
know who ended up giving Crime Stoppers that tip that ultimately landed law enforcement on his doorstep.
Right. We're not sure at this point. We're learning information as you guys are, so a lot coming out. We got sent to the scene at about 1 o'clock this afternoon, and we were here for when they took him away in the police car. But a lot of the legwork on this morning we were not here for. I'm not even sure that all neighbors understood the severity of this. Most of them told us that they just realized fugitive from from New Orleans here in Atlanta when we were talking to them within the last 30 minutes.
Coming to Atlanta.
Aware of the scope of this.
Take that mess back to New
Thank
Orleans.
you so much for all that great information. That's Marissa Sarback with our sister station 11 Alive in Atlanta, and hopefully we'll talk to you again in a little bit as we all continue to try
go
to
to
get
house,
more
yeah.
information on this. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
Interesting information coming out of that report.
Just to see that house.
Yeah, absolutely. It looks like a nice neighborhood. Hearing from witnesses that he was sort of peeking through the windows sometimes to see what was going on in the neighborhood. Yeah, and they noticed him for over a month now at that house.
Over a month.
Right.
He was wanted in Orleans Parish out of
No.
Louisiana for escaping.
I would have been called the police
But
on him,
it's
peeping at me.
interesting if he's been in that same location for that amount of time, and how much he's been moving around, from Atlanta to different parts of the country. Witnesses at the scene made it sound like law enforcement officers got there at around 9 o'clock this morning, that they were there for a couple of hours, trying to get...
Well, I be done, Derrick. Why did you come here, boy?
thrown into that house, yes. And then obviously they broke down the garage door, broke down the front door, had to find him actually inside the house, and they found him in a crawl space. So I think he was hoping that law enforcement would break in, that they wouldn't find him.
Not in Atlanta, baby.
Obviously that didn't happen. And then something else interesting, Mike, is that we saw him screaming, and you heard Marissa there talking about how he was definitely trying to get himself heard as he was going away in that police car.
Right.
Moving from side to side, trying to get the camera's attention as they were driving away with him, but we just haven't been able to kind of slow it down and figure out exactly what he was
Good.
saying.
I'm glad he locked up.
Going to go back and watch
Yeah.
to see if she can kind of get a clue in and hear what he was actually screaming from both sides of the police unit there.
Yep.
But of course, now we know that that is Derrick Groves, who has been caught there in Southwest Atlanta after 5 months. We're almost 5 months to the day.
Yeah, almost.
The 15th, 16th of May, whenever that happened, and here we are on the 8th. So we're almost to that point.
They got Derrick Groves
Yes.
Because we never knew
in a lamp.
He could have been down the street from the
Golly.
sheriff's office for anybody
Oh,
else.
Jesus, help me, Lord, have mercy.
So many people have been in fear, as we've talked
Please
about.
ring that press conference. I can't wait.
Those involved with the case, the
Yes.
DA's office, the attorneys, lawyers on probably both sides of the case are probably breathing a sigh of relief today.
Yes, absolutely. I think one other thing that is letting them breathe a sigh of relief is that
I bet I'm surprised he ain't see no
this
snakes.
whole operation, which I think is what law enforcement and everyone
Spiders.
hopes for when they go into a situation like this. You never know what could happen, and in this case, he was taken back into custody without being injured. No other law enforcement agents were
Wow,
injured.
how much?
Best outcome you could possibly get. Now, what you're looking at right now on your screen next to us is the podium where we are expecting to hear from Orleans Parish DA Jason Williams. We had a
Golly.
press conference that was scheduled at 2
Y'all
o'clock
should have stayed
today
in
on something
jail. That
totally
was real
unrelated.
dumb.
But we are expecting to hear from him, and then he was supposed to have some other law enforcement officials there with him, and you can see right there on your screen that's state police that's there with him. Not sure if the NOPD is going to be represented, but some other law enforcement agencies were supposed to be there. Again, talking about something unrelated. Bring that news conference to you live. Just so that you can hear what they
I
have to
wonder
say
where
about
he
the
was getting
situation with Derrick
food
Groves as
from.
well.
Who was
So,
feeding
lots of news
Derrick?
coming out from the Orleans DA. We got a statement from them earlier talking about the fact that really this was a sigh of relief for everyone involved. So those people who were witnesses in the murder case against Derrick Groves, Jason Williams himself who tried Derrick Groves, the ADAs who were prosecuting that case also were fearful after he had escaped. So this is going to give people, a little bit of security tonight to know.
I didn't know he was here, honey.
Conference, we do expect from Jason Williams. You might imagine he would want to address this first. This is going to be something he wants to talk with because he personally, as well, directly involved with the cases involving Derrick Groves, as well as some of the other inmates who were caught. But Derrick Groves in particular, of course, you had the DA coming out saying that he was personally.
I'm glad he locked up now.
On the run because
Shouldn't have came up here.
Aspect of the DA's office.
Yeah, I mean, it can be very fearful for those prosecutors involved.
We know some had even left the city and the state just out of fear of retaliation of that.
Yes.
Now, we do expect from this news conference, the DA, you mentioned some other officials up there. I have kind of the list of who's expected to be there. That's going to be the special agent in charge with...
Let me skip it, baby. Let me skip it right here. I'm going to skip it right here, y'all.
You can actually have basements, you can have crawl spaces and things underneath the house, which is something law enforcement would have to be mindful.
Way to go, Georgia boys.
Because as you kind of mentioned earlier, like, he got down there, they gassed him out. They wouldn't find him.
You don't want to come my way, baby. It ain't going to be safe. You can't come my way. But stay off over him.
Right now on your screen.
Not with my
Williams
army.
ready to speak. That's the Orleans Parish DA, surrounded by other law enforcement agencies. Again, to talk about a business on Burgundy Street in the French Quarter. Down, allegedly as a hub of illegal activity. So we're waiting to hear from them in just moments as he talks about that. And of course, we're planning on asking them about the recapture of Derrick Groves. So let's listen in.
Details on the ground, because obviously I was not there, but we have confirmed that escaped inmate Derrick Groves was captured in Atlanta, Georgia, following a standoff in southwest Atlanta. After nearly 5 months on the run after escape from the Orleans Parish Justice Center on May 16th. I think across the board, whether you are a reporter or whether you are in law enforcement or whether you lived in the neighborhood where he wreaked havoc or whether you were a witness who was brave enough to come forward and testify against him, everybody is sighing a collective sigh of relief, knowing that a person who was facing multiple life sentences.
Come on, 11 alive.
Crimes that he was already convicted of, and the other crimes that he committed.
Can you talk about the partnerships that led to today's arrest?
Absolutely. I mean, obviously, you've got the Atlanta Police Department heavily involved, working very closely with Brian Fair and the U.S. Marshal Service. The U.S. Marshal Service has just really gone above and beyond when we have multi-jurisdictional issues. There have been a number of cases in which they've weighed in quite heavily, working with the NOPD and all of our federal and state and local partners and Troop NOLA to try to find him when he was here. Obviously, they had a bit of a lead time and when that was reported to law enforcement partners and the press, and he was able to make good his escape for 5 months. But I think you may remember Brian Fair saying a number of times, Derrick Groves has to get lucky every single time, and law enforcement has to get lucky once. And that happened today, thank God.
Hey, Pookie. Hey, baby.
Recovered, taken into custody without any gunshot, anybody hurt?
You know, I think a lot of people were. Let me speak for myself. I was deeply concerned that someone that had been convicted of a double homicide and was supposed to be in Angola would not go easily. I was afraid that there would be loss of life, whether it be civilian or law enforcement. And I don't think we thank Derrick Groves for that. I think we thank God for that, that he was taken into custody without injury.
Well, DA, if you could, I know this is sort of the very beginning. I mean, Derrick Groves captured, that's one thing, but how did he get to Atlanta, and if he had any help along the way, that's something that investigators are going to be looking for.
Look, I'm not going to, I don't spend too much time on this because these folks are here to celebrate a monumental accomplishment for the city of New Orleans, just as this arrest was. Obviously, Chris, if you go to Atlanta later on today, you're going to have some help. Whether it's an Uber driver, whether it's getting some gas, whether it is catching a flight. He obviously had some help. And there will
He
be
sure did. Somebody will
thorough
feed him,
investigation
too.
to any and everybody that helped him along the way.
Lock him
in
up.
whatever parish and whatever county that assistance came.
Last question, what charging decisions do you have right now?
I don't want to address that at this point, Paul. It's a little too soon. But thank you all for being here today to focus on 31-1 Burgundy Street. We're standing here.
Oh, damn, Burgundy Street. I told y'all he was about Washington Park.
To be a retail business called Culture Fashion. Today
All
I
right,
stand
that's Orleans
with
DA Jason Williams. We'll have more on the meat of his press conference for you in our later newscast. Right now, we're talking about the recapture of Derrick Groves. Sharice Gibson joining me now here on set in the studio as we follow this breaking news this afternoon. What we just heard from Jason Williams was, everyone is relieved that he is now back in custody.
But yeah, we tend to forget here, Derrick Groves was convicted.
Yes.
So with Derrick Groves being convicted, the prosecutors who were involved in that conviction immediately after the escape of those 10 inmates, a lot of them went into a protective custody. They went into hiding because people were fearful that he was still out. And then 5 months later, him still being out still had people uneasy.
Yeah.
So as he mentioned at the beginning of that press conference, it's to the relief of reporters, it's to the relief of the witnesses who testified against him, and even to the prosecutors that he has been captured in Atlanta. Even though I hear the conversation, a lot of people are asking why Atlanta, what brought him there.
That's what I'm saying. Why you come up here?
And I have questions about the house, because this seems like a typical neighborhood where a person lives. Is he related to the person that's inside of this house? How no one noticed him, because he has very visible features. If you look at his face, some tattoos, some that are around his neck. I'm very curious as to what got him up to Atlanta. And as we've seen in many of these cases, there likely is going to be, around his neck he had tattoos, not on his face, but I'm thinking about Derrick Massey here.
Antoine Massey,
excuse me.
Another escapee.
Yeah, who was captured.
They got you, Derrick. Now.
Connected to this historic jailbreak. Someone else had to help him get up there, and someone else likely will be taken into custody.
Yes, and we just heard from Jason Williams. Again, the DA saying they are planning to prosecute anyone who was
Somebody
involved
took him
in
some
helping Derrick
food.
Groves over the past 5 months. They'll prosecute him to the fullest extent of the law, and I think he means business on that front. He has shown, with these
Don't
other
be telling
escapees,
nobody
all
where
of
you
the
living
people
at,
who
niece.
have helped those other escapees over the last 5 months, that he has really shown no mercy to those people.
Oh yeah, they've all been given incredibly high bonds. We've done a story on this because they want to make an example of these people.
Yes.
And we typically see the same situation
ATL.
being taken extradited back into New Orleans, taken immediately by helicopter to Angola. That is where many of them are standing right now. But Derrick
Yes.
Groves is in a very different situation because, again, he is the only one that was convicted and on some of the most serious charges.
Yes, he was in jail awaiting sentencing. Now he'll, of course, be awaiting
Bye,
trial on
Derrick.
those
Bye, Derrick. Get out of here.
charges.
And don't come back this way.
And quite frankly, probably some other charges
Over
as well
there,
that
them
I'm not
old
thinking
folks
about right
make
now.
good.
But he'll have to stand
Old
trial on these new
retirees.
charges too. But as
What
you
is he
mentioned,
saying
all
right
the other
now?
people have been taken to the Louisiana
Bye.
State Penitentiary in Angola for a
Better hope they
potential
don't take you to
situation
Rice
because
Street.
of
Them boys
concerns
waiting
about
on you,
security in
boy.
jail.
And we talk about the security at the jail. We just had our Mike Pearlstein, who just left our station here, but Mike Pearlstein really tapped
Talking
into what's
junk.
happening at the jail. There was another situation where there was potentially almost another escape inside of the Orleans Justice Center. So this calls into question everything that's happening at the jail, the security situation.
Oh,
And
he
what's going
bad.
on
He
there.
talking
Yeah,
junk.
the
Won't see you
fact
gonna
that this was
talk junk when
reported
they
in
send
that
you down
situation, we are
on
going
Rice
to
Street.
continue to follow this breaking news. Derrick Groves back in custody. We're going to follow it for you throughout the afternoon, and we'll bring you the very latest on WWL Louisiana News. We do have some more information. I was going to wrap it up, but apparently you've got some new information coming in. So hold right there, Charisse. We're not leaving yet.
No. Apparently, there's going to be a press conference by the Atlanta police. We're going to be listening into that. That's where Derrick Groves was captured. Obviously, this is a multi-state and a multi-police effort, because when you talk about this jailbreak, I think the furthest that they've gotten, we have Georgia, the others were captured in Texas.
There's one in Texas.
Yeah,
yes.
there were others captured in Texas, and there were many potential sightings of Derrick Groves. I remember at one point we were talking about him being in Mississippi. Some people had sent in tips saying that he had been in Florida, so everyone was concerned and looking for him. We did not know 5 months out after that escape. That was a historic escape of 10 inmates. I remember that we were sitting here when we saw the video for the first time. That was shocking.
Yes, our jaws dropped.
Yeah, that was shocking because I think we've never seen anything like that. People just running out of the jail. So,
Hey,
I mean,
baby.
right now, a lot of people probably relieved, but Derrick Groves, again, facing some of the more serious charges.
Peeping out of them people blind at that old lady.
Atlanta police officer still out there.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if this is live or not, but we do
She
know
should have
this is on
called her
Circle
nephew
Street.
gang
That's
over
the
there.
house where police, U.S. Marshals, federal law enforcement agents all took Derrick Groves into custody this morning after about 2 hours of trying to get him out of the house. They ended up going in, finding him in a crawl space underneath the house, which is where he was holed up, as he was hoping, I think, that they would not be able to find him and move on.
They go to good old boys in Atlanta.
Out there from one of our sister stations, if they can give us an idea. We did see him yelling outside of the back of the vehicle. What exactly was he saying during those moments? Because I feel like we saw the same thing with Antoine Massey. Antoine Massey still claiming his innocence. I wonder if Derrick Groves is doing the same. But we do know that last year that Groves was convicted. A jury convicted him of killing 2 people when he opened fire kind of on a family block party with an assault rifle. And they said this was prosecutor said at the time that this was a rivalry with drug dealers. He faced life imprisonment. I know that Derrick, DA Jason Williams, they said they were asking for the maximum penalty, life in prison without parole. We talked about those administrative delays that happened that kept him inside of a non-secure facility under the Orleans Justice Center instead of keeping him and moving Angola prison, which is a highly secure facility. And I think that begs to question something we've always talked about, the number of inmates that are kept inside of the Orleans Justice Center who are supposed to go to trial, especially for some very serious charges. I visited with Sheriff Susan Hudson inside of that Justice Center. She told me at one point that there was an inmate who spent 6 or 7 years in that facility waiting to go to trial.
Yes.
That's not what it's for.
No, it's not. It's not a long-term housing facility.
They go to good old
That
boys in the
is what it,
ATL,
unfortunately, often is used for.
They don't bother
Just
nobody
delays in the
unless
criminal
you
justice
bother.
system. COVID, it pushed a number of trials back, so there's been a huge backlog that
And I don't
prosecutors
bother
are
them. I don't want them
in terms of
around me.
cases that have been backlogged at Tulane and Broad. And because of that, you have a lot of inmates who've been held and housed at that Orleans Justice Center for a longer period
I
of
bet
time.
they
I think,
snatched
than
Derrick
normal
out that
would.
little
But
crowd
Derrick
hole.
Groves' case, he was awaiting sentencing. He was supposed to be transferred to a safe facility after that sentencing happened, but they escaped in the meantime. I think that's one of the things that made law enforcers so concerned about the fact that Derrick Groves was out there, because, as they mentioned over these months, he really had nothing to lose. He's likely going to prison for life. So he was on the run. He was going to stay on the run as long as he possibly could. You know, his worst case scenario is what happened in that suburban Atlanta.
We got some fine cops in Atlanta
this morning.
Yeah, and one thing that we did discover about Derrick Groves, he has a really interesting history.
What he got in
connecting
his
him
hands?
to being the grandson, if I'm not mistaken, of Kim Groves, and Kim Groves was at the center of one of New Orleans' most notorious murders.
Yes.
She was a 32-year-old mother of 3 when she was killed in the Ninth Ward in the 90s, and unfortunately, this hit.
Yes.
As we all know, the story was ordered by then NOPD police officer Lynn Davis. So, really interesting history that we delved into, Derrick Groves, where you can kind of mention that he's been surrounded by this kind of violence potentially all of his life, and many people were talking about his history being connected to the way he is right now. Just to give you an update right now, we're standing by, we're waiting on the Atlanta Police Department to give us an update as to how they led to the capture of Derrick Groves. I see that shot being set up right now. Hopefully they can give us more answers as to what he was saying and the circumstances behind his capture.
Yes, and we do know that Atlanta police, there were some other neighboring law enforcement agencies that were also involved in taking him back into custody there on Honeysuckle Street. We know that this was on the southwest side of Atlanta, but Atlanta police proper, again, some county police that were out there that had been assisting. You could see those decals on their units, but they obviously knew that they were dealing with a dangerous individual. They knew that this could go very, very wrong. Thankfully, it did not this morning. No one was hurt, including Derrick Groves himself. At least that's what it appears from the photos and from the videos that we've seen there at the scene.
All right, I know that we're standing by for that to start, but let's go back to Sheriff Susan Hudson, who is over at the Orleans Justice Center. She's been talking profusely about this, what she's calling the let out instead of the breakout. And she's calling it that because she says that there were people who had to let them out in order for this to happen because this is a secure facility. We do know so far that, if I'm not mistaken, only one employee has been arrested at the jail, and they're currently investigating a number of people, including family members, people who are connected to these inmates who escaped them, who helped them to escape after the fact. But there are potentially someone else inside of the jail that could potentially face arrest if they were involved in this escape. We do remember that, I know this is 5 months ago that we're still talking about this. You remember that they removed a toilet and cut a big hole, and of course the messaging that was written on top of the wall.
Too easy.
Too easy is becoming thing. I think we're looking right now. They're starting that press conference.
Yes.
All right, let's take a live listen in.
We can give you time. In the meantime, I'll let you know what we got going on. We are going to hear from Deputy Chief Kelly Collier. That's Kelley Collier, Collier. He's the Deputy Chief of our Community Services Division of the Atlanta Police Department. Everyone rolling?
Rolling.
Frank, you rolling? Got somebody behind you. Are you good? All right, everyone. Deputy Chief Kelly Collier.
Good afternoon. I'm Deputy Chief Kelly Collier with the City of Atlanta Police Department. So this afternoon, here on Honeysuckle Lane, the United States Marshals Southeast Fugitive Task Force, in conjunction with the Atlanta Police Department and the Clayton County Police Department, were able to take Derrick Groves, 28 years old, into custody here on Honeysuckle Lane. Mr. Groves was wanted for escape from the Orleans Parish Jail in May of this year. He was convicted earlier in the state of Louisiana for 2 counts of murder. We are so thankful for the bravery and courage of all the officers involved in this operation. He is the 10th of 10 individuals to be taken into custody from the Orleans Parish incident.
Y'all did a good job. Thank you.
Information that we can't provide, but we will allow for some
What
questions.
challenges did you face trying to get him out of there? See, the SWAT did a lot of damage to the home.
That's correct. Our SWAT team, with all their training and experience, they were able to bring him out. We deployed a number of canisters of gas to help move him throughout the house, which he moved to the basement of the house. Soon after, Clayton County K-9 was deployed in the crawl space of the location and found him in that crawl space.
Can you talk to us about how you even knew he was here? Was this a tip that came in? How did you guys find him?
No, I can't talk about that. Maybe the U.S. Marshal Service can talk about that.
Is that something you can talk about? Is this the house of somebody? Hold on for me one
All right, that is Deputy Chief in Atlanta Police Department, Kelly Collier, giving us what very little we know about the capture of Derrick Groves. He said again, this is a
Brought them
multiple
feds
state
up in there.
investigation. U.S. Marshals were involved, Atlanta Police, including the Clayton County Police Department.
Is the U.S. Marshal Service speaking right now? Do we want to go back to that?
Yeah. Okay. So again, as we just give this little information that we do have, the little information that they can share with journalists here, that there was a standoff, and the SWAT team did bring him out by deploying gas canisters inside of the house. That's when he moved to the basement of the house, and a K-9 was deployed and obviously was captured.
Yes, they used a K-9, like you said, to go into that crawl space, and that's where they found him. And I think he was hoping that they would not be able to find him, but they put the dogs out, dogs found him.
Yes.
So now we're just going to continue to cover this breaking news situation. Derrick Groves back in custody after 5 months on the run, and we'll have the latest for you on WWL Plus if you want to continue with us right now. Then let's go back to regular programming.
This has been breaking news from WWL Louisiana.
Let me see what Louisiana talking about. Let's see.
And of course, you can join us for the WWL Louisiana News.
Skip it. All right, let me see what else I think that's it with what they got with Derrick, y'all. Let me see what they talking about right here. They got Derrick.
We are interrupting NBC News Daily because we are following major breaking news. Derrick Groves, the one remaining inmate at large from that massive jailbreak from the jail in New Orleans in May, has just been captured in the last 50.
Okay.
Tip from Crime Stoppers New Orleans and other information reporting that Groves had possibly been in the Atlanta, Georgia area. They went to a house, and that is where they found Groves in the last 30 to 45 minutes. It is our understanding from federal U.S. Marshals that Derrick Groves is in custody right now. When he'll be extradited back to New Orleans, that is not known. But as everybody knows by now, Groves was one of 10 people to break out of the Orleans Justice Center, which is just another name for the jail in the city of New Orleans back in May. 9 other inmates had been captured. Many believe that Groves could possibly have been the mastermind of this entire escape. Derrick Groves is a convicted killer, having been found guilty of killing numerous people on Mardi Gras Day several years ago.
I'm glad they got him.
He has now been on the run for several months, but now on October 8th, he has now been brought to justice in the Atlanta area in southwest Atlanta. We are waiting for video from the scene. It's our understanding that Atlanta PD as well as federal officials raided a house a few hours ago. They were tipped off that Groves could have been there, and now, according to U.S. Marshals, he in fact was there. Joining us live, the point person for a lot of this, U.S. Marshal Brian Fair. Brian, first off, congratulations on ending now what has been almost a 6-month search for Derrick Groves.
Thank you, and can't take credit for it. This was a team effort through multiple law enforcement agencies and with support from Crime Stoppers GNO.
So if you can talk about this, you have done a lot of interviews. You told us back in May it may take weeks, it may take months, but we will eventually catch Derrick Groves. I know that the investigation is still fresh. It's actually happening right now, but how did you all track him down to Georgia, to southwest Georgia? Was it essentially just a tip called into Crime Stoppers?
It was a combination of tips that we received from Crime Stoppers GNO and then follow-up work done by the U.S. Marshal Service over the last couple months. We developed information that he was possibly at a house on Honeysuckle Street in Atlanta, Georgia. And this morning, from what you saw in the news, was the follow-up of that. The U.S. Marshals New Orleans Task Force sent a collateral lead out to the U.S. Marshals Southeast Regional Fugitive Task Force in Atlanta. They, along with the Atlanta PD SWAT team, acted on that tip. And behind the scenes, there was a lot of investigative work done here in New Orleans by the Orleans Parish Sheriff's Office, the New Orleans Police Department, Louisiana State Police, FBI, HSI, and the U.S. Marshals. So there was a lot of manpower, hours, and investigation that went into this to today's result.
Yeah, and look, Brian, we're all going to have a lot of questions. So is the general public watching this right now. Do you know how long he's been in Atlanta or how he got there? I mean, obviously he didn't fly. Does it seem like somebody transported him across state lines to try to hide him out in Georgia?
I don't want to speculate at this time. I would guess that, yeah, somebody probably did help transport him there. That's going to be a follow-up investigation that will be done. It is possible additional people go to jail.
And is this the kind of thing, this does bring a close to this, with the exception of the investigation still going on at OPSO, but is this a day that people can breathe a big sigh of relief that all 10 inmates are finally back in custody?
Yes, I would say this is that day that you can finally, relax a little bit now that this has finally been done. It's taken quite a few months. We're just happy it's over. It took several hours once they went to the house today. He was hiding in a crawl space. A lot of manpower hours and effort and equipment had to be used today to get him out of the house.
And he came out without incident, or did he put up any kind of fight? I know these are details that are still coming into you as well.
I would not call this without incident. There was probably a 3 or 4 hour, I don't know if we call it a standoff, where we didn't know if he was in the house or not. Nobody was there, but ultimately he was located in a crawl space in the house.
Does it seem, I mean, look, Brian, I know this is all going to come out in the investigation, but do you believe he's been there for several weeks or months? I mean, is this the kind of place that he went to?
I wonder where he
back in
been.
May and has just been holed up in Southwest Atlanta since?
But the feeling keeps kicking in.
Okay.
That's going to take some more follow-up work. I would say
I believe somebody.
Been there for a little while, but we don't know how long.
I believe somebody come get him and bring him back there at night.
And look, is this the kind of thing too where
you to bring him some food?
A lot of man hours and time, but this is what the U.S. Marshals do. I mean, you track down people who are wanted by local, state, and federal law enforcement.
Yeah, he was
while
in a
you've seen the
Browns
task force
race.
get smaller, where NOPD, OPSO, state police had to pull some people back because they had to go on with other cases. The U.S. Marshal's Office never stopped working on this.
Correct, and they still have people assigned to the case. Like state police has somebody assigned full-time on our task force, so does Orleans Parish Sheriff's Office. So those people continue to work, and LSP and Orleans continue to support our efforts during that time. So did HSI and FBI. The scale got a little smaller,
Girl, you
but
funny.
like I said, at that point, once the majority of them were captured, we were able to focus more on Mr. Groves.
And
I don't know why he
just
came
I don't know if
here.
You can see it, Brian. We were taking a live look. That looks like a federal and state SWAT team. As we talk to you, we have a live picture from Atlanta here where they just brought him to justice. If you can walk us through the process for something like this, because I think everybody is captivated by it and wants to know, they want to see the veil pulled back. You make a call to your counterparts in Georgia, and is it basically they go to work immediately? I mean, this looks like a high-level task force here of highly skilled officers, SWAT team members right now.
SWAT team, I seen them early in the morning when I was at work.
Correct. Well, so Elite is sent out. They also have their own work to do, remember, like they have their own cases that are violent offenders as well. So they prioritize cases. Obviously, this was a big one. So they prioritized it and began work. And it may not, I mean, some people would think, oh, it's just very simple. You just run out the address and go knock on the door. It doesn't work that way. There's a lot of behind-the-scenes work that goes on to before you even go knock on a door, and that's what you saw today. There was a lot of work done. Like I said, Crime Stoppers GNO provided significant support all summer long, and even today.
I bet they snatched him out of there. I can hear what they were saying.
That we had today.
And look,
Ooh-wee.
Groves is different than the rest of these escaped inmates because he has been convicted.
Bring your
of murder.
beat,
He will spend the rest of his life
off in him, boy.
at Angola without probation or parole. Did it make him more of a flight risk? Did it make it more of a high risk matter given the fact that, I hate to use this term, he really had nothing to lose because unlike a lot of these escapees who were pretrial detainees waiting for their day in court, Groves knows his fate. He is going to the state prison at Angola for the rest of his life.
No, I would say that is a factor, yes. At least it adds to our risk. We do assess what we're working on each case and determine what might have more of a risk. And obviously he would be way up there because he's looking at not ever being released from prison.
Now walk us through the process. And I've never seen this before back in May and June when you made the rest of these. He'll eventually end up in a jail in Atlanta. He'll be extradited back here. If you can walk us through that process, it'll probably be a couple of days, I would guess, based on the other cases that the marshals and the state officials have handled. Is that correct?
Yeah, so if he doesn't get charged with anything locally there, he will eventually be extradited back to Louisiana. I would think that there may be a chance state police is actually involved in that process as they've already helped extradite several of the other escapees to Angola. So yeah, he'll get booked into the local county he's in. I don't have the county's name in front of me, but the local county in Georgia, and he'll go through a process. He'll either waive extradition or not waive it. And if he doesn't, the ultimate
Send him back to New Orleans. Send him back now.
And look, Brian, this is something you've been involved in with the rest of your team of U.S. Marshals as well as state police and NOPD and OPSO. Atlanta was handling a lot of this. You were waiting for a text message or phone call. When you got it, I mean, is there a sense of, okay, finally, it's over. This tip actually led to an arrest, and this is him? Because we've seen you all chase a lot of leads. Some of those bear no fruit, but this one obviously did, and now he's in custody.
Yeah, so we were in the office, hovered around our phones and communicating directly with them and waiting on it. So there was a lot of excitement here once we were finally notified that he was in custody. For a while, there was some concern because this drug on for quite a few hours before he was taken into custody. And we've had several tips and investigative things that we've done over the summer that we've been left basically holding the bag or not found him. So we were starting to get a little concerned, but we were confident that there was a pretty good shot that he was in that house.
And look, I know that we've talked to other sources. They told us there were some tips coming in recently. There was some chatter, I guess, that he may have been in the Atlanta area. Is that kind of why you all focused in on this area? When you start getting a lot of tips and a lot of chatter, does it become reality?
Well, there's been multiple tips in Atlanta and other areas in Georgia, and then there was stuff in Texas and other places. So we had to follow up on everything along the way, I would say. And then we had to do our own investigation as well to try to see what we could develop from talking to people, looking through records, and it was all time consuming.
All right, Brian Fair, U.S. Marshal, we appreciate your time. I know that you and your team are probably very happy with this outcome.
I'm
Derrick
happy.
Groves was finally brought to justice.
Yeah, the team is very happy.
I'm thinking about our kids here in Atlanta.
I mean, all the agencies that were involved in this. It's not just the U.S. Marshals. It was all the other agencies and Crime Stoppers, GNO. I believe everybody's extremely excited right now.
I am.
All right, Brian Fair, U.S. Marshal, we do appreciate your time.
You're losing.
All right, y'all. We caught Derrick. They got Derrick. Derrick was right here in Atlanta with us, y'all. For 5 months. 5 months. He right here in the ATL.
Thank you.
All right,
Take him back where y'all got him from.
What U.S. Marshal Brian Fair just told us. He was picked up on a street, if you're familiar with Atlanta, Honeysuckle.
I know where
Street,
Honeysuckle
that
is.
Southwest corner of Atlanta. He was found in a crawl space inside a house. They say he was trying to hide out there, that no one else was in the house. This lasted about 3 or 4 hours where they tried to locate him and found him in a crawl space. He was captured after a brief standoff.
Get him out of here.
Where he refused to come out. It seemed like he was trying to hide and maybe not let police and federal marshals know that he was there. You heard Brian Fair say this was a combined effort. State police, New Orleans, FBI, OPSO, U.S. Marshals, everybody working. And the big thing, we're going to try to get an interview here, if not now, then later on today, with Darlene Costanza. Crime Stoppers of Greater New Orleans, they say a tip played a key role in this. So therefore, they have been talking about tips. There is still a $50,000 reward. Hopefully, if
Woo!
somebody did call
Dog,
in
I
that
wish
tip
I had
and
that
led to
money.
this arrest, then therefore,
God,
it
dog,
could
it
be
Derrick.
somebody collecting money as they have been advertising.
I wish I had to know where you was.
Any capture of him
Dang.
to anybody who can call in information. But you heard Brian Fair just say right there that a tip in Atlanta or tip.
All right, y'all. Somebody rich. I didn't find them, y'all, and I ain't getting none of that money. So somebody rich. Y'all like, share, and subscribe. I'm glad y'all was in. We got Derrick Groves, and he out the street. Yes. If you're gonna escape somewhere, don't come to Atlanta, baby, cause they gonna get you.